Creating a news agenda that reflects an unbiased view of Asian current affairs without relying on external news sources. Asia Vision, Asian news through Asian eyes. For over 30 years, we have been getting stronger and faster. This year alone, we have added 4 new members, increasing our total to 13 members, contributing and exchanging news material every day. But our influence is just not limited to the region. We have been expanding our network across the globe. In the Middle East and Northern Africa, we have Sister Union, Arab States Broadcasting Union, sharing news with us daily. In Europe, we exchange news with over 60 different European broadcasters, and in America, CNN receives news materials from AVN and broadcasts them all over the world. Asian news is changing faster and having more of an impact on global affairs than ever before. Through improvements in technology, journalists are able to submit and access more news stories and receive updates faster through our newly integrated internet-based platform. The new internet platform has made it easier to contribute and access current news events, and the rise of membership participation has led to a dramatic increase of items being exchanged over the last year. With the exchange of news comes the exchange of ideas. Members can also benefit from AVN journalist workshops and attachment schemes in our bid to create partnerships, spread knowledge, and elevate standards. So, contribute your views in global affairs and join us as we document history in the making. Asia Vision, Asian news through Asian eyes.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. I'm Nasma Abdul Mohsen and this is AVN News. China kicks off annual meetings of its top legislature. During this year's gathering of the National People's Congress, delegates are expected to pass a proposal that could allow Xi Jinping to become China's president for life. VOA's Bill Ide has more.
Arriving in fleets of buses and marching in line, more than 2,000 delegates gathered at the Great Hall of the People for the legislature's opening session. Premier Li Keqiang's government work report carried familiar pledges to limit financial risk posed by mounting local government debt and to keep China's growth stable. Li also pledged to further open up China's markets for foreign investment. And just as Washington readies to slap stiff tariffs on steel and aluminum, China pledged to cut its overcapacity in steel by 170 million tons.
China will unswervingly promote the globalization of the free economy and protect free trade. We are ready to work with all relevant parties to advance multilateral trade negotiations.
Li says this year China will spend 8.1% more on defense, and that China's communist-led government expects the economy to expand by 6.5%. Li did not mention the proposed constitutional amendments in his report, but another speech at the opening session did, revealing for the first time that the push to pass some 21 amendments, including the article on Xi's term in office, began in September of last year. The party says the proposal to scrap the 2-term limit on the president's time in office was a response to calls from across the country and party cadres. Although some delegates VOA spoke with were unaware of the proposal, all voiced support for the move and confidence the party would address concerns about Xi becoming president for life.
That question will eventually be resolved appropriately. But what the government needs now is stability and continuity. What China fears the most is a flip-flop of policies.
I believe that the Communist Party of China will not revert to its old past and create a personality cult. Regulations in the party constitution are clear on that.
I'm sure the party has taken this into consideration and has made plans.
Delegates to the Congress will discuss proposed amendments on Wednesday, and a final vote will be held this coming Sunday. The vote, party officials say, will include booths, ballot boxes, and even a backup if the counting system fails. Bill Ide, VOA News, Beijing.
Asia Vision, Asian news through Asian eyes.
A graphic medicine exhibit has opened at the U.S. National Library of Medicine at the National Institute of Health, showcasing comics that show the medical journeys experienced by patients and caregivers. Organizers hope this new language will give clinicians and policymakers a more personalized way of understanding the issues faced by them both. From Washington, VOA's Jill Craig has more.
She calls herself a nurse who makes comics.
And I'm sitting here today because one day I just sat down and made a comic.
But now, M.K. Serwick is considered a pioneer in the field of graphic medicine, the use of comics to depict someone's healthcare experiences. Serwick made that first comic while working in an HIV/AIDS care unit in Chicago in the 1990s.
As a nurse, I found this sort of combination of very basic image and text in sequential fashion to be really helpful. So the first comic I ever made was absolutely out of necessity, and I started because I was just miserable and felt really grief-stricken and confused, and I had to go to work at 3 o'clock that day. This was like 10 o'clock in the morning, and I had to figure out some sort of intervention to help myself be present to my patients and kind of help clear my own mind. And this just, so I sat down and made what turned out to be my first comic, and it worked, and so I just kept doing it.
And, says Patty Brennan, the power of comics is useful not only for patients and caregivers, but for those who work with them.
Sometimes we use graphic medicine for training clinicians or for debriefing practitioners in the workforce. The pictures helping them to bring out the concerns, the multidimensional experience of interacting with people.
NIH software engineer Hong Yu attended a recent presentation about the new exhibit. He says the comics make it easier to understand difficult material.
A lot of the time I find myself struggling to make people interested in those technical stuff, and their way about introducing medicine stuff, which a lot of times also to people that don't have a medical background would find boring, that will be able to illustrate things in a very interesting way.
This exhibit will be open to the public until January of 2009, and a traveling exhibition will visit 50 sites over the next 4 years. Jill Craig, VOA News, Washington.
More people in Columbus, Ohio are now surviving when their hearts suddenly develop an abnormal beat and stop beating altogether. VOA's Carol Pearson reports their survival is due to a new procedure developed after the hospital partnered with a local fire department.
Mark Bradford takes the same walk every day, but one morning he collapsed in sudden cardiac arrest. His heart stopped beating.
Next thing I remember is waking up in the heart unit.
With cardiac arrest, every second counts. How fast help arrives is a factor for survival. So too is what caused the heart to stop beating. If the heart quivers uncontrollably and can't pump blood, or if it goes wildly out of rhythm, chances of survival are slim to none. In the U.S., fire departments are called if there's an emergency. When the Columbus, Ohio Fire Department received a new device for CPR, the department contacted the Ohio State University Wexner Medical Center, and together they developed a new plan of action.
This will be an ECMO patient.
With that call, medics connect the patient to an automated CPR machine in the ambulance, while a team at the hospital prepares the catheterization laboratory, or cath lab. The lab has diagnostic imaging equipment so doctors can see the heart's arteries and chambers. Most patients who arrive at a hospital by ambulance go to the emergency room. At Ohio State, heart patients go immediately to the cath lab.
Getting people directly to the cath lab is critically important because the more time we wait, the more damage is done to the heart, the more damage is done to all of your organs, including your brain.
The patient is then connected to a machine that does the job of the heart and the lungs.
We can rest the heart and the lungs and then work, in this case, work on the heart to try to get it restarted and beating well.
This practice gives doctors better odds to fix what caused the heart to stop, and it gives patients a chance to survive. The hospital said the new protocol has increased survival rates from 0 to 40%.
Patients have a chance to walk out of a hospital with neurological recovery, having a meaningful life, when essentially they would have been pronounced dead on the field.
Bradford was the first patient in Columbus, Ohio, to benefit from the protocol.
I mean, I'm very fortunate that they were trained in it, that they used it, that I was out in the park rather than in the house by myself.
Doctors are hopeful this new procedure will eventually become standard and more lives will be saved. Carol Pearson, VOA News.
Asia Vision, Asian news through Asian eyes.
From a shopping center and an airport to a concert venue or even your own phone, these are all places facial recognition technology can now be used due to technological advancements in the last few years. The types of applications are growing in a world where the idea of privacy is constantly evolving. VOA's Elizabeth Lee explains.
From China to the United States, facial recognition technology is being used and tested like this at the Los Angeles International Airport.
We're always looking at technology, processes, even doctrine changes on how to better our security at an airport. You're going to put that one face down.
This pilot program that takes a picture of the passenger and compares it to the passport picture is just one way facial recognition technology can be used for security.
For the surveillance, you can catch the face in the public and find what you want to find. And for the commercial use, you can find the VIP when they come to a store. So you can make a special server for them.
Great advances have been made in facial recognition technology in recent years. This promotional video shows how it can identify a missing child.
The computers are finally fast enough. We have GPUs and hardware that is fast enough to process all the data that we need to process.
Machines can now match faces even when the lighting isn't good or when a full shot of the face is not available. A side shot or moving image of the face may be enough for artificial intelligence to make a match. Face First is one of many companies developing facial recognition software with endless possible applications.
Where this is going is very exciting. So, we think about everyday items that we have that are going away. Our house keys, our car keys, our ATM cards, our passwords are all starting to go away, and instead we're going to be using facial recognition. Smartphones, of course, now are using facial recognition. Laptops have facial recognition on it.
The ability to capture an image of a person without consent comes with privacy concerns. The worry in the U.S. is not necessarily about the government.
My biggest privacy concern is actually not the government. It's the big companies where there are really no limits on how they can share data, what they can use it for, how they can exploit it.
Facial recognition researchers say a social framework should be created to guide the use of this technology so it can be used safely to benefit society and not exploit it. Elizabeth Lee, VOA News, Los Angeles.
A game changer for weather forecasts, that is what the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration and NASA are calling the just-launched GOES-S satellite. It is the second in a pair of the most advanced weather satellites ever built. Faith Lapidus reports.
4, 3, 2, 1. And liftoff of the Atlas V and NOAA's GOES-S, a highly sophisticated weather-watching eye in the sky, to join its twin in providing better forecasts and saving lives.
The Thursday launch of the GOES-S satellite opened a new window for meteorologists. The 5.5-meter-long craft will join another NOAA weather satellite, GOES-East, to provide high-resolution images of the entire Western Hemisphere, from the west coast of Africa, across the Americas, all the way to New Zealand in the Pacific. GOES-S will improve monitoring of solar activity and space weather, but its primary instruments will be focused on the Earth. It will capture real-time mapping of lightning activity, which is often associated with severe storms. Its detailed observations of clouds, smoke, fog, and snow will give meteorologists a clearer picture of changing weather patterns, improving marine and aviation forecasts, and wildfire detection.
You're talking basically like going from 1990s technologies to 2020 technology in one day. So it's going to be completely a revolution of how we see data and how much information we receive. It's going to be 40 times more information than what we had before.
And that means better predictions and more accurate forecasts.
The new satellite is going to have 16 channels, which is going to be replacing old technology with higher resolution. By having the 16 channels, we're going to have more information on the visible as well as the infrared regime. This includes such information as detection of CO2 emissions in the upper atmosphere and evaluation of the ozone layer aloft, and we will give us a better capability to monitor atmospheric moisture.
The enhanced data will be shared with the international community, giving other countries more advance warnings in case of weather emergencies like hurricanes or tornadoes. The expanded satellite network will also have economic benefits by providing faster and more accurate information to commercial airlines and vessels to help them avoid storms and extreme weather conditions. I'm Faith Lapidus, VOA News.
And that's all we have for you right now. Thank you for watching. Have a very pleasant day.
Asia Vision, Asian news through Asian eyes.